Hey, it's Nicole. Welcome back to the show. So glad to have you. And our guest today, Kiri Mohan. Kiri is the founder of the podcast, The $1 Million Tipping Point, where she interviews women business owners who've made it past that sometimes elusive seven-figure mark. She's also someone who knows what it means to be really unhappy in your corporate career. That's right. She was unhappy being the local weather girl, and the amount of money they paid her, you wouldn't believe. We're going to dive into all of it right here. And what she did is really, really incredible. She has taken that ability to be able to leave something and leap into her own thing and teach it to others. So excited for you to hear what she has to share with us today. Let's go.
Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you.
Kiri, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I'm so excited to have you. I'm going to start the show the way we do with every guest. How would you finish the sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when?
You know you're an entrepreneur when someone brings up something totally random and you think that could be a business. And you know they're not thinking that. They work in some other industry or whatever, and they're just like, oh, that could be a business? You're like, yes, this is good. It would take a lot of work. Not for me, but it could be a business.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. When was the last idea that you had like that you're like, not for me, but...
You know, I had my friend talking about airline stewards and airline stewardesses, and she was like, oh, I always wanted to kind of do that. But you know that you have to find apartments. And I was like, has anyone built like this website of like the best places in like different cities that you as an airline hostess or host or whatever, steward, you could go out there and like, this is like where it makes sense to get a hotel room. This is where it makes sense to actually rent an apartment in that place with 3 other airline stewardesses or stewards. You know, I just had this whole business idea. And I don't actually could exist for all I know, but I was like, that would be brilliant. But I have no knowledge of the airline industry.
I mean, maybe that's how and why it's named Airbnb. Maybe that's why it got started.
Oh.
I mean, so maybe you're on that level of ideas right there. But maybe they realize, wait, there's a few more people than just...
I've never even thought about where they got the air name.
Well, tell me, before we get too far into the show, what do you do and what businesses do you own?
I am a consultant who helps women go from their corporate jobs to a contract job, corporate to contract. So it's taking the skill sets that you already know and that you already have, and then how do you make a business out of it? How do you get high-paying clients? Because a lot of these corporate women, you know, they want to match their salary that they're making in the office. So it's like, how do you match that salary? What are proposals? What are the contracts? What should you have in the contracts? If you're trying to grow a team, what does that look like? And so I basically help them take what they have and what they know and go into building a business online. And really, it's not for people who are just like, oh, I just want to earn a couple extra bucks. I mean, you can totally, but that's not my market. It's usually women who are high earners who want to take it to another level. Maybe they just want a little bit of flexibility and not have to tell their employer when they're going to a doctor's appointment. Maybe it's like they really do want to check out at 2 p.m. and go do something else. But most of these women like to work and they love their career. So I started as a virtual assistant, and that was 10 years ago. And this is where I got my idea because I was an executive assistant to CEO, and I just transferred those skills online and I built my business. And then I have another business called Source Your Systems. So I'm the VA, not so much anymore, but I have Source Your Systems, which would help clients when they were like, hey, you know, I am in the startups like stage. I need a payroll platform. What are the payroll platforms out there? And then I would research them, give the information to them. And then if they wanted a demo, I would have subcontractors on staff who would give them an honest demo. And they would say, hey, like, here's what's going on with this one, why this payroll system's better than this one. And basically this whole thing, it was like a 3-step process. That one is still going, that business, kind of fizzling it out because I am working on, see, it's like total serial entrepreneur. I am working on creating the knowledge I do with my consulting business and making a course out of it. So doing the corporate to contract as a course with modules so that it's like easily accessible and it's not my time that I'm always giving out.
Right. Yeah. Instead of all one-on-one. So that's what you were doing. You were doing everything one-on-one to help handhold people there.
Yeah. Get people there. And now it's like, I think I need to make this into a course. So it's less of my time. And it's more of like something that people can walk through. Maybe I'll have cohorts, group coaching calls, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm currently working on that right now, which is why Source Your Systems is kind of dwindling a little bit to the side. And I have a podcast.
Yes.
So I
Tell
also
me
do
about
a
the podcast. Yeah. Tell me about that.
It's the $1 million Tipping Point podcast. I interview women entrepreneurs who have crossed the 7-figure mark in their business. And we talk about, like, what does their team look like? What's their mindset? What are the biggest mistakes that they've made? What are the best and worst investments that they've made? It's really like 45 minutes to an hour talking to women from all different kinds of life. How does their business work when they made it to that like higher level and the 7 figures, and what does it look like to have a business in that range? Yeah.
I love it. You probably meet so many interesting people. That's
I do.
fantastic.
I
So
do.
fun. Okay, so tell me, what's your story? What led you to entrepreneurship? Was there a specific moment or experience? What happened?
No, it's like I'm one of those accidental entrepreneurs. So I actually went to college for meteorology, which I'm
Oh.
not doing right now, clearly. I really wanted to do broadcast meteorology, TV.
Yeah.
And I had some internships, and I sent out my demo reels to different like TV stations around the US. And I started getting these offers, and they were really low, like low pay in TV to start out.
What's
And
like
you
low pay
have-
when you're starting out? What's like low?
Okay, so this was in 2010. So what was that, like 13 years ago?
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
got an offer for 60 hours a week just doing the weekend meteorology. And I would be an on-field, like that person that goes out near the car
Yeah.
accident or near the
Yes.
murder site or whatever.
Right. Yes.
That would be the 5 days a week. So I'd only have 1 day off.
Okay.
And they were offering me $18,000 a year.
No. Okay, wait. So just to be clear, so out of school, now post-recession, I was expecting low. We should have played this game because I usually sometimes when people are going to tell me a number, like I write a number down. And I was thinking, what would be really low in post-recession? What's she going to say? And I thought, well, if it was only the weekend, my number was going to be 28. If anybody's listening right now and you're like, yeah, that was the number, or it was way higher or lower, I'd love to hear from somebody. So please share with us. But I was thinking, okay, 28, like that would sting. But like, I guess it was weekends. It's only 2 days. Okay. To hear
No, 18. 60 hours.
60
Up
hours.
Up to
Up
60.
to.
Could have been 40.
Outside in the rain and the tornado. So like actually out there in it, like trying to like.
Well, that place was West Virginia, so I don't know how many tornadoes to get out there. But that's the thing, like the weekend was in the studio. The on-field wasn't even related to weather. It could have been like
I see.
football game of the local college. So it was unrelated to my profession. It was just like they needed someone to fill an on-field slot.
You're like
Yeah.
18. I can't even pay back school for that.
It was really low. I got another offer for like 22 in Texas. But like these places were really out of the way. Like, and you have to pay your dues.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision. Is this what I want to do with the rest of my
Yeah.
life? Keep working my way up and like eventually to make it to a big market like New York, Boston, LA,
Sure.
Chicago, where the weather or population is great. You have to go to grad school. And I didn't want to go to grad school. So I was kind of like, all right, we're kind of stuck here in a decision time. And I was married at the time and there was no jobs out there for my husband either. And all these little podunk places.
Yeah.
And I kind of made a decision. I said, okay, I'm not going to do this. So what do I do when I've, spent my college degree working towards this? And I realized I was really good at organizing. I was really good at keeping on top of things. And so I was looking into like being a professional organizer, going to people's houses. I was looking at wedding planning. I was looking at executive assistant. And I ended up deciding on executive assistant because I like those 5 days a week, no weekends. It was like one person you like get to have a relationship with. So I basically kind of worked my way up to different jobs where I eventually was the EA to a CEO.
Okay.
Now I was bored one day because they travel a lot.
Yeah.
And so there'd be like a lot of work when they were in the office and then not a lot of work when they're traveling. And I was like, I really could do this online. Let's look for a work from home EA job, which back then, I mean, this was probably 2013, like not very common.
Right.
And I found some $20 an hour. And then I stumbled upon this thing called virtual assistant. And I was like, oh, that could be interesting. Oh, you make your own business? Oh, okay. And I looked into it on forums. I said, okay, I'm just going to try this and see what happens. So I went to my local town hall, registered as sole proprietor, and I got addicted. And I was like, up at like 5:30 in the morning doing my marketing before I'd like have to leave. And then I'd come home and I didn't have kids at that point. So that was a little easier. But then I was like,
miss those 18-hour days. We could just work on all the things.
I know,
Oh
I
my
do.
gosh.
I do, especially now that I'm working on other stuff. I'm like, when am I going to get this done?
Yes. The words out of my mouth may have come today so perfectly. I was like, I could actually not just write one, but maybe write and finish 2 and maybe also like a children's book for funsies if I would just leave and stay at a hotel just down the street for 2 or 3 solid days. And my husband, we share an office. And he was like, yeah, you think so? Just give me a couple 18-hour days.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I actually did that when my daughter was born. A year and a half after she was born, I went on this like 5-day retreat for myself in Maine. packed up, and I got so much work done. So much work done.
So there's something to you that exudes just a lot of confidence in the decision making that you were making along the way. So you've got to tell me, you got to take me back like even further before college. What gave you the confidence? Was there any entrepreneurs in your life that you like saw and you're like, they can do
Well,
it?
funnily, this confidence actually grew in college. My dad is an entrepreneur. He has run his own business, but I never paid attention to him. I never knew anything that it entailed until I started my own. I didn't even bother asking him because it was my dad. It was like, whatever, he owns a business. Who cares? So I didn't know anything actually about running a business. I'm not the type of kid that was like, oh, I have a lemonade stand or I'm going to go do Girl Scouts, selling Girl Scouts cookies. Never did any of that. I was incredibly shy, very shy, almost crippled by my shyness. The college I went to was Mount Holyoke College, and it was all girls. It still is all girls. And there's something about that, like that they just kind of instilled in you constantly this confidence in yourself as a woman, and you can do anything. I'm not saying my parents didn't do that. They did, and they were wonderful at that. But there was something about being constantly surrounded by them at 24/7, really ambitious women, like professors who were just like, you can do this, you can do this. Even though I was going for something completely unrelated to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Being surrounded by that for 4 years straight, I left there just a totally different person than when I went in.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, I should send this podcast recording to the school so they can hear it.
You should. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I think those are still formative years, right? Like, so getting that and getting on a regular basis. And it's no surprise now that that's exactly what you're working with. These women that are ambitious because you're just used to being around them. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. And dad was an entrepreneur. I feel like there's some things that parents teach without saying a word. Now, I was involved all over my dad's business as a little, like, Dad, you have bad handwriting. Let me write that contract for you. But it was just me and him. So I think movie Curly Sue, but a little different with straight hair. So I think that there's still things, though, that our parents are teaching us without us even knowing. And so just to hear that he was one just warms my heart. Like I don't know, raising entrepreneurs is interesting.
He's 72 and he's still running. I asked him the other weekend, I was like, you going to retire soon? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, have you thought about what you're doing with the business? Because you're 72. I think he'd just be bored out of his mind if he.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm finally to the conclusion that I think entrepreneurs without their thing, I think they'll age faster. I think we'll all age faster if we don't.
So too. I think anyone really who stops working sometimes. It's just because your mind isn't needed to be like on point all the time.
Yeah, you're probably right that it's anybody. I just always think that way because I feel like those that have a job that they're just looking forward to retirement, I never consider like they're just looking forward to like that victory lap. Whereas entrepreneurs are like, I don't know if I'm going to get there. So it's like keeping them young because they're like, I'm not sure that I've reached the thing yet. So
well, I took like an extra long maternity leave when I just had my son a year ago. I was like, I'm going to take 4 months off because I can. My business is stable enough. Like literally by month 2 or 3, like once he started getting into consistent naps, I was like, oh my gosh, I had 3 business ideas. Like I was like thinking of putting stuff on Etsy. I had like the podcast ideas. Like, I mean, I started reaching out to podcast guests and being like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? Blah, blah, blah. I'm starting a new podcast. Like what? Like it was maternity leave where it's supposed to be chilling. And I was like, nope.
I love it. I found another one. I just keep collecting all of you. It just makes me feel like, yep. Truly on maternity leave, I was doing the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to design 50 different state t-shirts because I have an idea and I'm on maternity leave and why not? Like if I'm going to be like sitting around doing nothing, I may as well throw those up on
Exactly.
Okay. So tell me, what is the most difficult thing about managing all the things and how do you overcome that?
The self-discipline is hard. At the end of the day, especially with 2 kids now, I'm more tired. I'm not like when I started my first business. I want to go sit on the couch and watch TV. So I actually have this whiteboard here where I have a balance of like Monday and Wednesdays, I have to work after the kids go to bed, at least 2 days a week, you know, and that can be like my marketing for my podcast. It can be my marketing for my consulting and whatever it is, like that has to be done at least twice a week. I also time block my day, which I never used to do. And I thought that was such a hoax and like people don't follow it, but it's not true. People do follow it because I just started to do it since January. I was like, I'm going to start time blocking. And I actually do when I have those time blocks. When it goes off on my calendar, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do this now. You would think having a flexible business, I would be able to take this time whenever and work on these other businesses, but I don't because you get sucked into something. It's just like any other job. There's always something that needs to be done no matter what, right? It's so hard to be able to step away and say like, actually, I don't need to do that. Because you have this addiction of like, I need to finish everything, but then you can't.
You can't. Because I think the to-do list is unending. I try to keep a post-it note, like the smallest one, not the big ones. And I try to keep my to-do lists to just 6 items on here. and it's split like 3 and 3, like the 3 should be the most important than the other 3. Those wheels fall off though sometimes. Let me be very clear with everybody. Sometimes there's a legal pad next to me when I'm like, this isn't it. Like, this isn't going to do it. Everything is competing for our attention. What about like team or funding or anything more personal than kids, anything like that that just comes up every once in a while for you?
Well, I do have a team. I have had 2 different ways of doing a team. I've had an agency where I've had people under me and they worked with clients directly and I kind of managed it.
Okay.
That burned. I didn't like that. I made that burn. Like I burned that.
Yes.
It was just really hard. I think I'm really good at what I do. And my reputation was on the line when these people were they were good, but they weren't great. And I was like, I don't want to have an agency that's not great. I know some people can. They just want the money. That's fine. I want people to be reflective of me. And I just wasn't finding the right people.
Yeah.
And so I gradually shut that down. And then I was solo for a while because I was like, no, I don't want to manage people.
Yes.
But then what I started doing is now I have people who basically report to me. So if there's client work that I have, they will report to me. Like I will say, can you do research on this? Can you do something on this? And let me know what you come up with. And then I take their stuff and then I do my own research and then I present it. Or for my podcast, I have someone who does like social media for me. Just so that there's something always going out there about my podcast, about my business, and that it's not dead. Because if it was up to me, my Instagram would be dead. And occasionally you would see a reel pop up and I'd be like, hey, I exist. And then I would go away. Right.
Yes,
like, so she does all of that for me. She's really great. She does research on my podcast guests. So if there's a podcast guest that she will send me everything she can find on them. So I don't have to go to every single different social media account and delve into their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I have someone who handles like the bookings of the podcast and stuff like that, the bookings of my consulting and like the new inquiries that come in and all of that. So it's like I do have a team.
Yeah.
They definitely save me time, but they also add on stuff as well because especially I think subcontractors and not employees, like they have their own different clients. One of my subcontractors is really sick. Haven't heard from her in 4 days. And I'm like, have those newsletters gone out? I don't know. I think so. I mean, I could just check. I will.
Yes.
But
sure.
like, you know, I want to trust my team. She's on top of that. She designs them. She does everything. So it's like,
Right.
is that happening? You know, so I do have a team.
Yes.
They do help, but they also give an extra little bit of stress sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yes. People are people-y, right? Somehow other people, their kids get sick too, just like mine. Man. And then everybody's down. Yeah. I get it. I get it. Okay. So tell me about some of this client work. Give me like a case study or something you worked through with somebody. I certainly have a corporate background. A lot of the entrepreneurs that we support or are listening today have, or some of them are still corporate decision makers, still hanging out in that world, always making a decision on whether they want to stay or not. And I think hearing a couple stories about who you help would be really helpful for us.
Sure. I can tell you one story about the people who don't succeed and the ones who do succeed.
Yeah.
I had one woman who really, really wanted to make the contract life, freelance life work for her. And she had a son. She was a single mom. And she came into the engagement, you know, really gung-ho. But I should have seen some flags. This was kind of early on that like she didn't want to do the work. She didn't want to put in the time and effort. And like, I totally get this. Like when I hired my first coach, I was like, well, what? I have homework. Like, because you expect them to like solve your problems and like everything will make sense. But you don't realize like, no, you're the one that actually has to do the work. Right. So she came into it and then like, you know, I was teaching her about social media and the marketing, how to write the right proposals, how to like reach out to people. She was scared to reach out to people because, you know, some people get scared with like cold reach outs. And I was like, well, who cares? They say no, you move on. But she didn't have that resilience factor. I remember one meeting, I said, you know, how's your social media marketing going? Let me see it. Like, she said she had hired someone to do it. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you don't have a business yet. You don't have your voice yet. You don't know your branding yet. How can you have someone else do this for you when you're still building your business? But like, that's the thing. Some of these women, they have the money. They're working this corporate life. No, I'll just throw the money at it and it'll work.
Yes.
And I was like, I really would like you to try to jump in, at least double check what they're doing because this person, she just let them run wild. So she didn't end up succeeding. And I think a lot of that has to do with how much work are you going to put into it? How much work are you going to do to succeed? I had a client that I met on Reddit who reached out to me. It was the entrepreneur thread. And someone said like, hey, you know, I started a VA business. I said, hey, that's where I started out. I ended up making anywhere 120 to 150K a year. And she said, as a VA, what? And I said, yes. It's just about the business and how you work it and how you work your contracts. And she was like, oh, I'd love to talk to you. And so she grew into a client just from this random Reddit thing. She did really well because she had the motivation. She had the discipline. I come back to that, but the
Mhm.
discipline to make it work. And she was one of the ones that listened to me that said, okay, you got to make time for this. Honestly, I think she probably worked during work sometimes. She didn't tell me that, but I feel like she did because I was like, I
Maybe not a
advise
good
like,
strategy.
yeah, no, I don't advise it, but I understand. Like, I mean, when there's nothing to do at work, sometimes people
Mhm.
do that. But, she was when I was like, you have to spend at least 2-3 days a week, extra hours outside of your working hours. You can't just like magically expect this to happen. This is your homework. This is what we're going to talk about. Like, I help them sit through like, what is most important to you? Because some people, they just want to get up at 11 a.m. and work 11 to 7, say. They don't want to wake up and be on the computer at 8:30 a.m. Some people, it's important for them to go to their kids' activities.
Right.
But all of them, the underlying thing is they want to be making a good amount of money. They want to be having that money that like they feel like they've almost replaced their corporate
Right.
salary, or they did, or they have the potential to grow.
Right.
And so she was just someone who wanted to like not have to report to them when she was taking an hour walk with her dog. And like, take the dog, drive to the beach, walk on the beach, and not
Yeah.
feel like tied to her phone and like having to like make it look like she's online.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's like those little things I always tell my clients, like, what is your why? Like, why are you doing this? Because once you have that, that's going to drive everything and you're going to succeed. And she wanted to take walks with her dog.
Well, there you go. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I love it. So, what is the time with you like? She spent 6 months, and then she's like on her own 2 feet, or like she checks in. How does it go?
It's generally 90 days. So
Oh,
we keep
wow.
it to 3 months. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this is why I'm making a course, because it is some nighttime work for me, which I
Yeah.
like nighttime meetings because these people are meeting.
Sure.
So with this work from home, it's kind of changed a little bit and people
Yes,
can meet during the day. I don't question
Yeah.
it. I'm just like, okay, great. That works. That works. for me.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you've probably seen a whole lot of changes because of that. I mean, people just like feeling that freedom and maybe never even considered it, but like now they feel it. They're like, surely. Are any of your people considering going corporate to contract, but offering the contract back to their employer, but just want to like basically renegotiate?
I do suggest it. Okay. But we go through pros and cons of like, you have to have some kind of salary from your contract job before you offer that. I always say, think ahead, right? Like, so even if your relationship with your employer is like amazing and with your manager,
Yeah. Yeah.
now they're going to be thinking in their head, is she going to leave me soon? And there's always going to be that little bit of question there. Like, is she starting this thing? Can I ask her about it? I want to ask her about it, even though we can't say yes to it. And you know what? Some people are really open to it. Some employers.
Yeah.
Some are not.
Right. Yeah.
And they just say no. I've never had anyone get fired on the spot for
Sure.
suggesting it. But
Yes.
yes, depends how nice your employer is. It really is. Because some employers are really old school. They might be letting you work from
For
home,
sure.
but they don't want you to be making your own
Yes.
hours, right? Like,
Oh, right. Absolutely.
my last corporate job, there was this whole thing I had to sign when I came on, and it said that like occasionally we will let you work from home. This is not a substitute for childcare. You must still have childcare.
Oh, for sure.
So there are people that have to sign that stuff all the time. And that's what's kind of frustrating for me because I'm like, if you're good enough at what you do, you can manage kids at home. We all proved that during the pandemic, right?
Okay.
So why are we even still questioning that? But there's just, don't let me go down that path. That's another.
Yes, yeah. So I think as a new mom, right around that same time, I don't know that they had me sign something, but I think it was understood. And as a new mom, I was like, no kidding. Like, there's no way I can do that and this. And my guy came home on a little oxygen too. So he was a NICU baby that, just need a little extra. And I just was like, no, there's no way I'm going to attempt this and like make sure oxygen is turned on just right. Like, no, someone's going to be here. And so I remember looking at it kind of laughable, like, you're kidding, right? Like, no. And
See, that's the
they were
opposite
so
for
good.
me.
Right.
I would be
yeah,
like, I could absolutely do both. Don't tell me I can't.
yeah, I love that you said that because if my experience wasn't that with my first guy, I might have been exactly the same way. But in this case, I was like, you really have to say it. And I was angry. Like, let me be clear. I was angry that I was asked because I'm a grown up. I was like, I will make my decisions. Thank you. But then I was like completely laughable. I'm like, dude, you all are dads here. You don't even know. They turn over in their crib and our ears, our like little puppy dog mama ears are, wait, did they just turn over? Are they about to wake up? Does that mean I'm getting up? And I was like, how dare you? However, you guys don't even have a clue. Like, you don't even know what it takes. Like, no, to be here and be, doing the level of work. No, which is the why for me, right? It's one of them. It's time, flexibility, and freedom. Okay. So tell me, what would you tell somebody when you can tell now? Like you said that one of them, you should have seen the signs, like you should have known. How do you tell them now? Like, I don't think this is the right fit for you. How
You
do
have to
do
be
that?
clear from the very beginning. And I think a lot of my copy is pretty clear when they sign up. Like, this takes work. This is going to take work outside of your normal business job. This is not for everyone. This is not for someone who wants to have a little side hustle. If you like to take the course and, have it, sure, that's on you. But if you're the type of person that you're coming here because you really want to take your career and make it your own career, not someone else's career, this takes work. I understand. This is going to take a lot of my time. I understand this is going to take extra hours outside of work. The clearer you are on every single form, every single copy, all of that, the more people will understand, and you hone in, you get the clients that you need and you want. Because the more vague you are and you try to open it up to everyone and say, this is for you, then you're going to end up with people who are bad matches.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. And frankly, if we don't get them success, they don't refer other people.
Right.
Yeah. Tell me, what is one of the key lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur, something you find yourself saying again and again?
Be kind to yourself. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I wish I could go faster. I wish I could get this done. Try to hire other people just to do this part for me so I can just hone in and get this done and get this done. And you just want to go and get it done. And I always want to get the next goal. It's like I'm rarely satisfied. And just like, be kind to yourself. Like, you've got a personal life. You've got businesses. You're doing great. It's okay. It will all get done. Be kind to yourself.
Oh, that's so good. Okay. So tell me, what's your definition of entrepreneurial success?
A little bit of time every day to do personal things, a little bit of time to work, and helping others, making sure that you're helping others and it's not always about the money. Like, because if you make it all about the money, then you're probably not going to succeed. I mean, you might, but there has to be something in there where you're helping other people, I think, because then when you believe in what you're doing and you're helping those other people, you will see that success. But for me, there's also that side aspect of like, there has to be time for personal stuff. Like, I like being able to log off when my daughter comes home from school and not have to run and work. Like, that to me is a definition of success, that I can work during little chunks here and there and little hours that work for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You've said the word personal a couple times in the last couple minutes with these questions. So I have to ask you just a funny question. Do you have hobbies?
No, my God. Do you see my background? Okay. Ready? Watch this. This is my lightsaber, which I don't know if this is a video, but it will be. Okay. Well, this is my lightsaber. I'm a mega huge Star Wars fan. I also have a Star Wars podcast, which I never, ever talk about, and people find it. It's funny. Like, I never promote it. It's called Star Wars Meanderings and Ramblings, and it really is just me talking. Sometimes I interview people, other fans.
Yeah.
I love Star Wars, and I have a tattoo of Star Wars. I cosplay as an Old Republic Jedi Knight. I have flown to like these huge Star Wars conventions. I love fitness. I love working out. I also love to read fantasy novels. Fantasy novels are my thing. Historical fiction. I always find time to read. Even when I had my newborn, I always found time to read because it's a form of escapism for me from life. So there you go. Yeah. Star Wars, working out, and reading.
Goals, man. I have just been like challenged because usually I'm like, hobbies. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have hobbies. And like, I always have to like really reach for them. And you pulled out a lightsaber. Wow. Okay. I can do better. I can make sure that I do better with my own. Okay. Last question. What's next for you? What new ideas do you have percolating besides the course? What else is?
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Well, this is really the course. I mean, that's really it. I would love to find a co-host for my Star Wars podcast. That's not really like, see, again, it's not even a business, but I'm like, well, it has potential. Star Wars has a big audience. Like, so that's in my head all the time. Like, I could maybe make a business, but it really is just the course. I'm working on that, working on the copy for my webpage to make it geared towards the course now and to step back a little bit from the one-on-one consulting because that's a lot of time and effort. Yeah. Versus people can just buy a course. And I would love to just do a monthly group coaching call. Yep. Help them, find their way in this world. Oh, I do have something else percolating. Oh my God. Oh, I have like free workshops that I host every month on running a business. So it's called Biz Growth Workshops. It's very original sounding. This was actually a New Year's resolution for me. Every month I was going to host a free workshop just to get used to speaking in front of other people, get used to doing PowerPoints, get used to just like putting myself out there and seeing what people are interested in. So find me on Instagram at virtually Kiri or Kiri Mohan on LinkedIn. You'll find information on my workshops so you can do it. And they're free and they're full of information. They're not like, here's like a teaser and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Then they're like, okay, you have to sign up with me in order to get all the. No, it's like tons of information, just free information, but there are no replays. That's the thing. There's no you don't get to watch it later. You have to join live.
That. Oh, I love that. Okay, so totally virtual. We can find you over there. Yep. So where do we find you if we want to hang out with you, Kiri?
KiriMohan.com or corporate to contract. And 2 is the number 2. corporate2contract.com. You can also find me, like I said, LinkedIn, Kiri Mohan, KiriMohan. I am the only Kiri Mohan out there. And then Instagram is virtually Kiri.
We will link all of those up in the show notes. Thank you so much, Kiri. Thank you for being an inspiration to those other ladies that are like stuck in those terrible places.